The most annoying Karens on paternity court.
I had to keep it a secret because I was in love with Mr. Richardson and I didn't want him to find out about Mr. Martin.
Why was we having sexual relationships when you was with him?
Potential father number 4, you don't know where he is.
I don't even know his name, Your Honor.
You don't even know his name.
Playing men like chess has led to Miss Bruton landing in a paternity puddle badly. While torn over the possibility of not being the father, 2 men are at each other's throats. And if you think this behavior is despicable, check out how this mommy defended herself.
Miss Bruton, why are you so sure Mr. Martin is not your child's father?
First of all, Logan looks just like Anthony. They have the same ears, eyes, nose, and he don't favor Mr. Martin at all.
So
that's why I'm sure.
Just by looks alone?
Yeah, by looks alone.
If things were that simple, these people wouldn't be in paternity court now, would they? The bone of contention here is that part-time lover Mr. Martin claimed to have impregnated the plaintiff on purpose, and there was no doubt that the baby was his.
Around the time that she conceived, she might say I didn't have it as many times she say I did, but I know it's a fact.
No.
It's 99.7%
No, Your Honor.
that it is mine.
No, Your Honor. We only had unprotected sex twice.
No.
That's it.
Your Honor.
Twice.
Your Honor.
In my apartment twice.
Your Honor, it was 3 at her apartment.
Shockingly, the defendant testified that smirk-faced mommy had convinced her about being the father of baby Logan. But now, when things got normal between her and her boyfriend, she took a U-turn for convenience.
Did you call him and say, I'm pregnant and you're the father?
First of all, I called both of them because I wasn't for sure who was the father because I slept with both of them around the same time.
Okay, so you do admit his testimony is true.
Their relationship was messier than their paternity situation. It turns out that Kiara had told both men about them being the father, while keeping the potential fathers in the dark about each other. Man, talk about being selfish. How does she sleep at night?
We was having our ups and downs in our relationship. And so when I met Mr. Martin, I confided him as a friend, and then our friendship grew into a sexual relationship. But it wasn't nothing more than that. My heart always been with Anthony.
All right, so you were always in love with Mr. Richardson.
Yeah.
Woman had no shame. Like, who on earth goes on to play with other people's feelings in that way? But things are about to get worse, trust me. Even after, yes, I cheated confession, the plaintiff had the nerve about saying that she was in love with her co-plaintiff.
I just told them that I'm pregnant and...
Oh! So you didn't tell the other man that there was another...
I had to keep it a secret because I was in love with Mr. Richardson and I didn't want him to find out about Mr. Martin.
If you were so in love with him, why was we having sexual relationships when you was with him? That's no way of showing love.
Further, it was disclosed that Miss Bruton had jumped leaps and bounds to keep Mr. Martin because she didn't want her fairy tale love to be ruined by the defendant and his presence. And she made sure that Mr. Richardson signed the birth certificate.
Because I wanted Mr. Richardson to know all of that. I didn't want Mr. Martin to know none of that because I don't want him to be Logan's father.
So you allowed Mr. Richardson to sign the birth certificate because you think he's the father or because you hope he's the father?
I think he's the father and I'm hoping he's the father.
Both.
You heard Miss Bruton. She just doesn't want the poor defendant to be the father. But the truth has its way of coming out. And when the baby came to the word, the bitter news of the plaintiff's infidelity got out. And FYI, the way it got disclosed wasn't pretty either.
I had suspicions of Mr. Richardson cheating on me. And so when I felt like he was hurting me, I decided to hurt him, to get back at him. So that's when I came and told him that it's a possibility that Mr. Martin is Logan's father.
You had suspicion of me because of things that you do.
Miss Bruton, you playing these men like a game of chess.
The plaintiff was a literal she-devil, using everyone around her to get what she wanted. She even went so far as to use the child as a pawn. And the judge didn't like that situation at all. Do we blame for Judge Lake for being irked? Not at all.
Everything that has happened here today is a product of your intention. You didn't just slip on a banana peel and end up in the bed with Mr. Martin by accident.
Your Honor.
You're saying all of this is purposeful, and that disturbs me.
Well, Your Honor, I'm human.
So what I'm saying is
I'm
once
gonna make mistakes.
Like all of us, the reality TV judge was also done with the obnoxiousness of the baby mama because the woman was a hopeless case. I felt bad for not only Logan, but also for the unfortunate men involved in the situation. Let's get them the answers they came looking for.
You are not the father.
I told you.
What?
I told you.
You are the father.
I told you. I knew what it was.
No, that is not possible.
What would you do if a paternity conundrum jumbled up your mind? As in this case, Miss Craig dragged her parents into Judge Lake's court, turning her last card of hope to determine for sure if the man she'd known for years was her biological father or not. Let's watch how she mustered up the courage for this mess.
Miss Craig, why is today your last hope?
Because I struggle with my identity, first and foremost. I've been going through too much, in and out of foster homes, back and forth. When I was about 5, there was a man in my life, and he was said to be my father.
Initially, it was revealed that this young woman had a lot of pain and trauma from not having a father in her life. She stated that she ended up living in foster care, yet she recalled a man whom she used to consider her dad, but her aunt dropped the bomb of reality on her. Even though decades had passed, the plaintiff's memories were still haunting her. Further, she claimed that her mother brought another man into the picture as her father. But the bummer was that her mother concealed the truth from Mr. Thompson at first, which made things miserable.
I saw him and his wife in a tavern, and I walked up to him and say, "Hey, baby daddy, we have a child together," and they're looking at me like I'm crazy.
Him and his wife were just at a tavern?
Yes, and I walked up, say, "Hey, baby daddy." He's like, "No, I don't have any kids." So I'm like, "Yeah, we have a 10-year-old child together."
However, the man opposed the testimony and claimed that he remembered meeting the baby girl with her grandma. And besides this, everything was a lie. Oh my! It seemed like both were swinging on their bluffing.
Okay, so you remember this day?
No. No, I do not.
So how did you find out that
I remember
Chanel...
I remember seeing Chanel when Chanel was a baby. She was a small little baby. She was 1, but I came out of prison. She was a little baby, and I came by her grandmama's house. Her mother wasn't there.
When you looked at her, did you believe this is my child?
No.
Mr. Thompson said that because every time the plaintiff would bring her sister when she was staying at his place, he became uncomfortable with the kids and left contact with Miss Craig. Further, he tried to comment on the mother-daughter relationship, and the defendant attacked him.
The relationship they was having, Janelle
That's
was...
mother and daughter, but how do you come in from being gone 7 years and say, "Oh, you can come live in my house"? Again, she don't know you.
You wasn't around?
I played both parts. What are you talking about? The hard part over with.
And this is what I go through.
She was bashing him, right? How in 10 years he never tried to reconnect with their daughter? Selfish! Even after his cold behavior, Miss Craig said that his girlfriend and kids told her that he denied the paternity, and this led to arguments between the parents.
I told you that when I first met you. Back up again.
Chanel told me that
You
when
are
she
such
turned
a liar.
16.
I said
She
that in
showed
your
me her
face
birth
and
certificate
told you
because she
this man
needed an
signed that
ID,
birth
a
certificate.
state ID.
It doesn't
And she showed me
matter.
this birth certificate.
I still told you
Ain't
he
told
put
me
his
nothing.
name on the birth certificate.
Ain't told me nothing.
Let me get this straight.
The first man, him and my mom was talking at the time.
It's good to know that her mother stood by her side. But still, living in the void of not having a father had affected her badly. And after having her baby, she wanted to know her paternity and, for the last time, expressed her pain to her parents.
From my lifestyle, from this, like I done been through too much. And I shouldn't feel like I had to go through that. No child had to go through that. It hurt.
What kind of support did you need?
A father for one, and I don't blame my mama for what she did, but I just wish she could have been there a little more.
Today's session was very hard for Miss Craig, but it was essential to put this burden off her shoulders. She wanted to know the name of her real father so that her baby could have its grandfather and to give her answers. She was ready for those results.
Miss Craig, Mr. Thompson is not your father.
Sorry, Neil. You can give me a hug. I'm your mom and dad. Don't matter. I'm still your daddy. I love you.
Baby mama Miss Davis, in hopes to right her wrongs, brings Mr. Smith to paternity court, who's one of the 4 potential fathers of her 2-year-old son. She hopes to find the father after messing around with multiple dudes. Let's hear what she has to say in her defense.
As a child, I had a very bad childhood. I went through 13 different foster homes. I've been to 4 different group homes, and I didn't grow up knowing who my father was until I was 18 years old. And my son's only 2. I mean, it's not his fault that I decided to make, well, practically a hoe of myself when I was of that age.
That's probably just a sob story. If she had such a tough childhood herself, why did she inflict the same hate on her child? Anyway, look how she explains to the judge that she stumbled upon 4 different men.
Each of the individual men I actually met on a chat line within days upon each other. I made a calendar.
In orange
Potential father number 2 we see is Mr. Smith. Now tell me about that relationship.
We met on the chat line, I hung out with him, and I spent a week with Mr. Smith. It's actually the time around that I conceived my son.
Upon asking, Mr. Smith claimed that he tried to get in touch with Miss Davis after a solid week of intimate sex, and he replied she changed her number and went back to her ex. This woman doesn't respect herself. Look what she said.
I did go back to my ex. It wasn't satisfactory, so I didn't really feel the need to go back.
It wasn't satisfactory?
No, Your Honor.
The man in blue, potential father number 3, who's that?
Another man which I was intimate with only once.
Where'd you meet him?
What? She doesn't even know the name of whom she slept with? But now she's having a guilt trip on who's the father? Probably she wants to pin the child on someone so that she can go have flings again. She did show responsibility when she had 2 of the dudes tested.
So did him not being his child? Yeah. So now we're left with Mr. Smith and potential father number 4. Now I remember you saying with potential father number 4, you don't know where he is.
I don't even know his name, Your Honor.
You don't even know his name.
Wait, there's more. Mr. Smith also has to say why he doesn't think he's the father. Upon being asked by the judge if Miss Davis has ever asked him to take a test, he responded confidently like this.
You ever asked Mr. Smith, Mr. Smith, has she ever asked you to take a test?
No, she hasn't, Your Honor. She skipped me and went to them. I guess I was the last option, Your Honor.
But first you told him he was not.
Yes.
And now you'll see why don't think I'm the father, because that was kind of slutty if I think.
Well, no doubt that's a problem. We'll just not go there. But when the judge asked if she had been pressing the baby on Mr. Smith, after knowing that potential fathers number 1 and 3 got eliminated, Mr. number 4 was a one-night stand, and Miss Davis didn't sound clear. Listen for yourself.
Did you really think Mr. Smith was credible option left?
No, I'm very positive that Mr. Smith is the father. With knowing that he is the father, I would actually like for him, this is my son's birth certificate.
Jerome, who's on the birth certificate now?
Me.
And no father listed?
No.
That birth certificate is nothing more than a sign of desperation to pin the baby down on someone. And if no one, Mr. Smith might be the one. After that, the judge called for the result. And check out what happened next.
Mr. Smith, you are not Javion's father.
I'm like so hurt, Your Honor.
You look crushed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, I can see that in your eyes. There's a disappointment that I see in your face.
Yes, Your Honor.
Unbelievable! A virgin birth? Can you imagine the shock? But hold on, this is no ordinary tale. Meet Mr. Harrington, who vehemently denies being the father of Miss Day's baby girl. But she's certain he's the one. So, who's the real deceiver here?
Eleni is not my child. This is the reason though, because there's other contenders, and she's a promiscuous person. She like to be, you know what I'm saying, she a party person. So she do whatever she feel like she wanna do, and she knows I'm a good father to the child I already got with her. You know, I'm a good person and I take care of my responsibilities.
In a twist of fate, Mr. Harrington discovers his impending fatherhood through an anonymous text. Who could this mysterious informant be? And why did Miss Day keep this life-changing news from him? She claims it's all a fabrication, but Mr. Harrington seems to possess evidence. Miss Day, care to explain?
How your baby mama pregnant and her and your sister hiding it from you? It might be guy number 1 baby though. You write back, who is this? So you just an anonymous tipper, huh?
Yeah.
Despite the anonymous text and the possibility of other potential fathers, Mr. Harrington bravely steps up to take responsibility if the DNA confirms his paternity. He attends the birth, yet hesitates to sign the birth certificate. After all, doubts linger. Why put his name down if the child isn't his?
I was saying to myself, okay, if I am a possible father, I don't want to have missed the birth. So I was keeping it real with myself. I was being real with myself.
Okay, all right, wrong, because he told me that he just wanted to make sure that I knew that he was gonna always be there.
Hold on tight. As the court proceedings unfolded, chaos ensues with the arrival of Miss Day's sister. Is she the key to unraveling the truth? Well, she drops a bombshell. Mr. Harrington's girlfriend threatens to leave if he's proven the father. And guess what? She's present in court too. Whoa, talk about drama.
When he came to the hospital, he asked her not to be named Nelania. He wanted her to be named Naya.
They just trying to make
He don't want to admit nothing because because his girlfriend told him that if he's the father, they will break up, and he don't want to go home to his mama because he has from irrelevant.
Hold on. In a shocking turn of events, Mr. Harrington presents compelling evidence to prove his innocence. He whips out his trusty laptop and unveils a due date calendar, revealing that conception occurred when he was nowhere near Miss Day. How can he be the father if he wasn't even around?
Mr. Harrington, you are not the father.
What? Told you, bro.
Are you serious?
Told you, can I Millie Rock?
No, you can't.